this was also the week where just a few weeks after the first successful and independent union campaign at an Amazon warehouse in Staten Island, the first one in the United States, which is was in Staten Island. Now a second vote is coming down the pike, and we're awaiting results. They should be in any moment now, and of course they're going to call me the first day here. This is the second Amazon warehouse, also on Staten Island, called LDJ5. And I want to just go to a quick video with an outlet that, Kim, you've done awesome work for, More Perfect Union. So here is a little bit of, also, it's the Amazon Labor Union, ALU, independent union, that is helping organize this second warehouse there.
Doing a lot of big captive audience.
Sorry, I'm going to start off and say that's Bernie Sanders and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. They, along with others, had a rally for those workers. So you're going to hear him start off speaking.
Doing a lot of big captive audience meetings.
Yeah, so usually they're like 20 people, but the past week what they've been doing is they've stopped production for the last hour of each shift to bring every single person, 500 people on the shift, into this meeting where the general manager and like the vice president of HR for all of Amazon comes and begs people basically to vote no. Like never in the history of Amazon have they ever stopped production to pull people for an all hands on deck meeting.
I was working on lane 2 and they pulled like a number of, they're called splitters. They're people who take the boxes off the conveyor belt and split them into different sections. They pulled probably like 5 of them off of the lane to go take them to a union busting meeting, and it caused a huge pile of boxes. There was another person who was trying to get boxes off the conveyor belt, and it had piled up all the way around his head so that he was trapped next to the conveyor belt, and I had to literally unbury him
oh my God.
out of these boxes. And that's because they're pulling people into union busting meetings. So I mean, they're literally creating safety hazards in order to try to get us to vote no.
The union busting has gotten worse ever since JFK won.
I think the tactics show a level of desperation, and I think workers see that too, and I think it's backfiring. It happened in JFK also. They started to get desperate, they started to get aggressive. They arrested Chris and Brett and Jason.
They're also having the union busters, the outside consultants, disguised as workers. They gave them the blue badges, they hired them on as workers, and they have them on the floor pretending to be workers, talking with the actual workers, telling them to vote no. Meanwhile, these union busters are getting paid $400 an hour.
Get 25-cent raise every 6 months, and then after 3 years, we don't get a raise. We'd have to go to a higher position when there ain't enough room to get a higher position. You move up, you should get more pay. If I take another job besides where I began at, if I start teaching people my job, I deserve a raise. Each level, each job you take, you should get extra money for what you do.
They don't accept people's shift change to become full-time workers. They've denied me full-time work. There's a lot of favoritism in LDJ5. If you're not really not friends with the managers, you get stuck in the worst lanes.
All the stories, all the horror stories you heard from JFK, they're true in our building too. And they're true in every Amazon building across the country.
Yep, and worse.
So this movement right here, this is just the beginning, like everyone's been saying.
All right. Kim.
That got me.
Yeah. Watching that, how does that square with the reporting you've done on Amazon in Alabama and Bessemer in terms of the tactics, in terms of the treatment of workers?
Oh, it's like they said, the same horrible things that are happening within those warehouses in Staten Island are happening in Bessemer, and everywhere else. Like the last time I was down there, well, I'm always in Alabama, it seems like, but one of the last times I was down there, I interviewed a couple of workers about the fact that two workers had died the same day at that Amazon facility. One on the actual, the shop floor, and one at the hospital where they were taken after suffering cardiac arrest. And that was just one day. And they know of other people that had died. This is one place in one state, one city. It's the amount of surveillance that Amazon has, created, implemented for itself. It works great for them, but I feel like that same magnifying glass needs to be zeroed in on what they're doing in there, because it's like the jungle all over again. These are just massive mechanized sweatshops where people aren't valued for anything more than their ability to create more profit for that fucking space cowboy.
I mean, nothing. Sorry, can I just? Nothing proved that. Like, I'm from Western Kentucky. Those tornadoes and the people that died in that Indiana warehouse, and the people who died in the county next to where I grew up in that candle factory, not Amazon, but Amazon killed those people in India. It was Indiana, I believe, and they just told them to keep working there when they had a tornado on the radar, like it's coming, and they were like, no, you have to stay here and work, and they just killed those people.
Yeah,
I mean, and if that's not the factory, then I don't know what it is, you know.
Yeah, that's totally the jungle. And what, like, Kim, in terms of the Staten Island vote, like what are your thoughts on that victory, at least at the JFK 8 warehouse, and what do you feel like we should take away from it?
It's a huge deal. It's, you know, as I wrote in the intro to my book, I wrote a lot about the Bessemer attempt. Well, they're on their second attempt now. They keep trying, and they're eventually going to win. But like I said, someone has to be the first, and someone else is going to build on that, build on that, build on that. These guys like these folks in Staten Island, like they flick that first domino, and there's no stopping that momentum, right? And even if it gets tougher, it's going to get tougher when they try to bargain. It's going to get tougher when they sit across from those lawyers. But they've shown that they've built up such a strong community and such a strong base of solidarity that I feel like they can take them on too. And the greatest lessons we can take from their victory and from their success and from their grassroots worker-led campaign is the fact that it came directly from the workers in a way that was very difficult for Amazon's union busters to kind of chisel into. Because in Bessemer, one of the tactics they used was to tell workers, look, these people from New York are going to come down here. They're going to take your money. They're going to mess with your job security. They don't understand you. They don't understand Alabama. And some people listen to that because, like, if you don't have a strong, like, inoculation campaign, if you don't understand how unions work already, if you're just trying to get a paycheck at the best paying job around, you're like, okay, well, that seems like none of my business. But in Staten Island, they couldn't do that because the workers were organizing in the break room and in the parking lot. It was people that knew one another. Yeah. And it was, I think, also significant that this victory came because of, like, Black and brown working class workers, queer and trans workers, younger workers, multilingual workers, folks that, like, spoke one another's language in a variety of ways on multiple levels. And it's hard to break those bonds. And especially once you get a win, like, I feel like you can't tell them shit.
Can I ask you about the NLRB's ruling, which happened between that first Bessemer vote, which obviously was not successful, and then this vote that said basically Amazon had to let organizers onto the shop floor and allow them to organize rather than what you were reporting on, which was like they changed a stoplight time so that organizers couldn't.
Like, you could not get in there. Like organizers couldn't get in there. The worker organizers were doing everything they could, but like, I think that the NLRB decision was a game changer, and it also kind of gave them a little bit of a boost. Like, oh, like, we can do this. Like, you can't tell us not to. Like, this is clearly what we're doing is right, and the law's on our side for once. Like this, it was a huge boost. And whereas in Bessemer, like, if they had not even private police, they had local Bessemer police patrolling the parking lot to make sure no one stepped foot on there. I got yelled at more times than I would care to share publicly.
God, that's the worst.
Literal rent-a-cops.
They're racking up overtime.
Yep.
Just to terrorize people as they were trying to go in and out of work.
Yep.
And of course, now this week, Amazon has said that nationwide, it will no longer pay workers who are out sick with COVID or inform workers when someone at their warehouse tests positive for COVID.
Winning hearts and minds.
Hell yeah.
They're already doing that in Alabama. They don't tell people anything. They pretend. But, you know, they'll surveil every move you make. But if someone next to you catches a deadly virus, it's like, oh, you want us to tell you? That seems like a little much.
Yeah. Right. This is the same company that monitors your bathroom breaks and won't allow you to, like, where you have to, like, plan them out in advance. And I remember the phrase I really keep on trying to forget, but time off task. which is I don't know if it's only in Amazon, but that's where I heard it first. The Amazon fucking just corporate overlordism of like people working till they, as you just said, die, or pass out. Like anyway,
well,
so
death is like time off.
The ultimate strike. I ain't coming back in. You can't make me.
Save up all your time off for the end. Yeah.
That is, you and Howie Schultz should really team up. Here's what I'll just tell him the death is like time off though.
Well, I would, but he's too cheap even to pay for the extended Zoom. He's still on the free one.
You got to get a Bezos union busting job, not a Starbucks one. But yeah, okay. So Amazon put it out. They're like, we're not going to send notifications in our facilities about COVID, and all employees will now get 5 days of excused unpaid time for confirmed COVID-19 diagnosis, regardless of vaccination status. We will no longer excuse time while waiting for a test result. So, and again, this is my whole thing with, and we're not necessarily talking about COVID, but this is the entire thing with when the country decides it's over.
Yes.
Without putting in proper protections for the so-called essential workers, getting you your fucking whatever it is, nail polish on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about Amazon. Like that's what happened. The people who are dying are going to be those very same workers that you spent so much wasted breath lauding for so long.
Yeah.
And I guess I want to ask you, Kim, in terms of if you feel like there's a sea change, like this, you're reporting before COVID versus you're reporting after COVID, the union efforts and drives before it versus after, like how did this pandemic kind of turn up the heat on this whole thing and on something on a situation that was long overdue in terms of activity?
I think there's been a really intense reimagining of how a lot of workers see their labor and their lives and the value that they attach to those things and the value that other people attach to those things. I mean, it's funny because I spent, like, when I first started writing this book, my whole goal was like, I want to come out in time for May Day. And then all this stuff happened. We had like the pandemic kicked off. We had this idea of the Great Resignation where workers are like, take this job and shove it. I'm going to find something better.
Yes.
We've had like the rise of Striketober. We had these very big public, like well reported on strikes, which is not something that we're accustomed to seeing, especially in like ABC News or CNN or whatever. They usually will not deign to, tell what the PMs are up to. At all. And that's a shift too, right? Like the media is realizing, people are actually interested in workers and workers' stories. Like maybe we should, I don't know, maybe we should check this thing out.
Right.
I think
are you getting those primetime hits? Tell me you are. Tell me it's not just the Bitchuation room.
ABC hit me up to talk about the coal miners. That was pretty sick.
Really?
That's very sick.
Yeah, I think I'm just a little too like gritty, grimy for the other ones. Fine. I would have to not swear, and that's trouble for me personally. But I mean, we're at this moment where like, and I always try and find the optimism, the hope. I'm like fucking heavy metal labor Pollyanna out here. But it does seem like there is this renewed or brand new sense of energy and enthusiasm and optimism, because like organized labor has been on the back foot since like before I was born. Yeah. Like where the numbers aren't great, we don't like the numbers in terms of density, but I feel like there's movement, like there's things happening. Not to give too much credit to anything the government does, but the NLRB has actually kind of grown some teeth. Shout out to Jennifer Abruzzo. Like we were talking about those captive audience meetings at Amazon earlier. Like she just put out a memo recently saying like, let's get rid of those. Like if we can actually get rid of captive audience meetings, that is a huge blow to the Union Busters toolkit.
And what is a captive audience meeting? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's what it's what the workers
thing,
we're talking about. Like, right, when you get pulled into like a classroom, or I guess in the case of that, I don't know how you fit 500 people into any room. I guess you rent out like a fucking venue. But essentially, like you're at work and your boss pulls you in, and it's a mandatory meeting where you have to sit there and listen to anti-union consultants tell you why unions are bad. And that's like, it seems like something that shouldn't be legal, but it extremely is. And Union Busters love it because it's a great way to intimidate and to spread misinformation. And so getting rid of those bare minimum would be a huge boon. One of the worker organizers I talked to in Bessemer last time I was down there, I asked him, like, what do you think how would that matter to what you guys are trying to do? And he's like, oh, dude, we would have won the first time if people weren't being spending hours having that drilled into their head that this union was going to ruin their lives.
Right.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. And then they show them like Hoffa starring Jack Nicholson or something and be like, see?
Yeah, they were literally telling people, like, getting pictures of like union officials' cars and being like, look, they're just going to buy another big truck with your dues.
Right.
Alabama, everyone has a giant truck. Calm down.
I mean, our guy's going to space in a cowboy hat, but this guy's got a new Benz.
Yeah, in fairness.
This guy's staying at a Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the same shitty one I stayed at for like 2 months. So,
how'd I know? How'd I know?
Yeah, it seems like people, especially the younger generation, which is saying as a 34-year-old makes me feel like an ancient crone, but like the younger generation are like really excited about and interested in unions because they're living through this like horrifying moment when there's no jobs, and the jobs that we do have pay us like shit and the world's on fire. Like people want to make change. And people who are younger who are seeing this happen are like, oh shit, like maybe we can do that.
There's not even the lie. There's not even the lie of a safety net anymore for that generation.
Totally.
You know what I mean? There's not even the dream of like going to debt to go to college and everything will be fine. Like that. Even that's been proven a lie. There's no good health. There's nothing.
In fact, the opposite, right?
Rent is going. Yeah, they got
rent's too damn high.
The might as well get paid more at your fucking shitty job. Yeah.
I mean, and it's in fact the opposite, right? Because when we know that companies like Walmart rely on food stamp programs to supplement what they're not willing to pay, it's just like, well, that there you fucking go. That's exactly right. Your externality, your capitalist externality of, I guess people can't make ends meet is suddenly, that's essentially a government handout to them. It's not a government handout to the people who actually need it. But anyway, I wanted to just show you, to bolster the point that Kim, you're making, that unionizing is incredibly, and labor unions are incredibly popular. So you could see in 2021, we're at like 68% approval rating. And it's the first time, I think, since 1964 that support for unions, this is according to Gallup, first time support for unions has been this high. So that's
shocking to me, actually.
It's almost as if people are realizing that unions are a good thing. You're like, oh, let me get some of that.
Right, after 40 years of anti-union propaganda,
Totally.
Yeah.
Kim, I know,
but you know what I mean.
I mean, Ronald Reagan continued to roast in hell for that.
Yes.
Oh my God, does he ever? What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuationroom. Do it.